Hello, everyone, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is May the 23rd, 2024. And I know a lot of people out there are anxious to see today's video because you know that I'm going to be talking about the Fibre Festival I went to on the weekend. But first I want to welcome all of you, whether you be a new viewer or one of my regular viewers that comes back week after week. I am very happy to have you all here with me, and I would appreciate every thumbs up I can get. And I'd love to get comments. I kind of live for Thursdays and your comments, and numbers are very slowly creeping up. I hope you enjoy what you see, and if you are new, I hope you will come back. Please subscribe, and you'll catch my video every Thursday. I come to you every Thursday, except at the first of the month, and that's another story we'll talk about in a minute. I am coming to you, for those that are new here, from southwestern Ontario. I say that because if you ever look at a map of Canada, you will see that Ontario dips down very low, surrounded by the Great Lakes, and we are called southwestern Ontario. I'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm all about showing finished objects and whips while I'm working on them, and talking about yarn. I like to show yarn, and particularly, although I do buy some big box store, my thing, you might say, is hand-dyed yarn. I love hand-dyed yarn. Once I discovered it, I couldn't stop buying it. And recently, I have started to focus very much on Canadian hand dyers, simply because of the exchange rates right now between the American and Canadian dollar. It's absolutely horrendous. So it means I need to shop more in my own backyard, so to speak, and that's what this past weekend was all about. But just to kind of maybe give my lesson of the week, how I like to educate you as much as I can. I know that the biggest percentage of my viewers are from the US. I also know, and I don't think my viewers are this way, but I also know that a lot of Americans, when they cross the border, are looking for the Eskimos and the igloos. And I just want to point out, using this week as an example, that we do not live in snow and ice all year, and barren tundra and rocks and whatever it is that's up there in the very northern areas of Canada. Yes, Canada covers a lot of territory. We are the second biggest country in the world. And just to give you an example what it's like where I am, and not all of Canada is the same, but this will give you an idea of the vast differences in temperatures and so on. Like where I live, we do get winter for sure, but this past winters lately, because of the global warming, have not been very severe, but we do get snow. We're not surprised when we get a foot of snow, although this past winter we barely got enough snow to cover the ground. But a couple of hours north of us, Toronto, a little beyond, they had a couple feet of snow. But today, all of a sudden, we went from cool weather. It's taken forever to warm up. I haven't felt like spring yet. And all of a sudden this weekend, it got very warm. And today, just to give you an example of what Canada can be like, today we're in Celsius, but I'll change it for you. Today, the high is 31 degrees, but because of the humidity, it feels like 37 Celsius, they said. Now, 37 Celsius translates to almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is very hot and very muggy out there. I remember in high school when we went on a vacation during March break to Florida, and it was hot and muggy, and I said, it feels just like home at summertime down here. We get very hot, very muggy summers, especially where I am, because we're so surrounded by the lakes. So that gives you an idea that it's not all frigid here in some parts of Canada. So enough of the lesson. It's hot and humid out there today, and I really didn't need to be putting this on, but as I sat down, I realized I had no crochet on and I had no FOs. More about that in a minute. So I went and got something to say I had crochet on. I will show you. This is a scarf. I will have to look up the name and post it down below, but I know for a fact this is a C.J. Brady one skein scarf. It starts at one end and it actually makes this little border as you are going. It increases to the middle and then it decreases back to a single point again. And I will put it back on. I don't know if it'll last. Fortunately, I am downstairs where it is cooler, but still, it is starting to get warmer down here as well. I will look up the name of the scarf if you are interested, and post it in the description box. But I'll have no way of knowing what the yarn is. But of course, sparkle. You can see the sparkle and you know how I love my sparkle. So that is something I'm wearing. Finished objects. I thought I would have a finished object for you this week. As you know, well, I guess I don't have it down here. As you know, I said last week I was working on an asymmetrical shawl with fireweed. I thought I could finish it for this week, but when I went away for the weekend, I decided I didn't want to take that with me. Instead, I took something that was being made out, I just started something being made out of an acrylic for a shawl to put in my donation box. And that's what I took with me and worked on over the weekend. Of course, I didn't finish it. I didn't work on it as much as I thought I would. So I have two things that are whips, and both of them, no problem, will be finished for next week. I have a lot to do this week because I have to finish fireweed, finish my shawl, and finish my May cowl. And while I'm mentioning the May cowl, I just want to remind you it's already the 23rd of the month, and your finished objects, the pictures of your finished objects, must be to me by next Thursday, I believe. 23rd, no, next Wednesday. They have to be to me next Wednesday, the 29th of May, because I will start working on the video on Thursday. So you have just under a week to finish your projects and get them to me for the slideshow. Those that are new, we do a monthly mal here, and I use birds for the inspiration. If you go and look in my past videos, the first of every month, May 1st, April 1st, whatever, you will see the slideshow I do. I think I explain most months what's going on. You can check what's happening. A little late for this month, but be on the watch. Next week, we'll have the regular Thursday video. And then on Saturday, which is June the 1st, we will have the monthly video and slideshow. And I will explain all about it there. And then hopefully maybe in June, I've got fluff floating around here, irritating my nose. And if you catch June the 1st, you'll see about the mal that we do here every month. So put all that aside, this episode is going to be entirely about my weekend in Toronto. I know a lot of you are waiting to hear about it. and I hope I can do it justice. I have notes here so I don't forget things. I have a table of yarn over here. I even brought my phone so I can see all the pictures so I know what I'm talking about. Um, and I want to tell you about the entire weekend. Some of you may never get a chance to experience something like this past weekend was. And I want to tell you all about my experience, not just show you a bunch of yarn. I think you want to see what it entailed. If you're interested in experiencing this, I think you should go on Google and Google yarn festivals or fiber festivals in your state. If there isn't one in your state, try a neighboring state. Try the US. I know there are a number in Canada, and I know of quite a few in the US. They aren't in every state, I have to guess, but they are spread around the US. I know of a couple in Texas. I know of a whole number of them up along the seaboard. I know there is one for sure in Pennsylvania. I know there are a couple in Washington State. I heard some other place. And if they don't have a fiber festival, look for yarn crawls. Sometimes half a dozen local yarn shops will get together and have what they call a yarn crawl for the weekend. And they'll have trunk shows from different yarn dyers or yarn dyers at their store. I've seen a couple of those. If you watch Nitty Natty, she did a couple. She did one in the San Francisco area. She did another one up in the Oregon. There's one I know in Arkansas. There are lots of opportunities to get a chance to experience a variety of yarn. And if you have the chance, I would highly recommend you take advantage of it and be willing to maybe travel a little bit of distance to see one if it's not in your state, because wait till you hear about the people we met this weekend. So I want to start from the very beginning and tell you about our whole experience. I have lots of yarn to show you, and I have a feeling I'll only get to the end of Saturday and I'll have to do Sunday next week. We'll see how the time goes. I don't want to keep you here all day. But anyhow, just one thing I want to say before I start. I don't know how I have watched people who have filmed going to fiber festivals. I particularly watched this one lady in the UK who's gone to a couple, and I've seen a few who've done it in the US. I've seen a few that are, I don't know with this wool. I've seen a couple that have actually been instructors at some of these, and then they show their purchases. I don't know how you can go to a weekend like this and come home with 3 or 4 skeins of yarn. In my brain, it's impossible. That's all I got to say. It definitely was impossible for me, and I think it's impossible for most people. How somebody can go and be exposed to that much yarn and have that kind of restraint is beyond me. So, first of all, let me tell you, I'm going to an event that is called Knit City Toronto. Knit City Toronto is part of a series of festivals in Canada put on by Knit City. Knit City started in Vancouver and did it for a number of years. And then a few years ago, they had one in Montreal, and that went for a couple of years. This year, they've decided to do Knit City Toronto and Knit City Calgary. what I learned while I was there is that Knit City Toronto and Knit City Montreal are going to alternate. So this year was Toronto, next year will be Montreal. It won't be back to Toronto for 2 years. And they're going to do the same thing in the West. Knit City Calgary is this summer, and then next year it'll be Knit City Vancouver, and they are going to alternate. So the Toronto and Calgary are brand new for them this year, and this was promoted as the largest one they have ever done. There were something like 108 vendors at this festival. I will show you some pictures to give you an idea of the scope of this, but I want to do it in kind of a logical fashion. So there were classes you could take, but neither Bonnie nor I opted to take any classes. Some of them were on Friday. They had a speaker Friday night, and they had, I think, what they call a game night Saturday night. We didn't participate in any of that. We simply went, paid to go in the market both days. And by going for both days, we got a little bit of a discount. So we live, I'm going to say about 200 miles from Toronto. And I want to tell you, Toronto is the largest city in Canada. I believe it's the third largest in North America, but I'm not positive. Anyhow, so we did not want to drive in Toronto, big city, a lot of traffic. I'll tell you more about that later. So we decided to take the train. The train is a 3.5-hour drive from Chatham, where we live, to Toronto. You get to downtown central Toronto, what they call Union Station, and it was walkable blocks from there to our hotel. So we were to take off about 9:30 in the morning, Friday morning. Started out, train was behind, which is really amazing to us because the train starts in Windsor, an hour from us. So there are no stops in between. So how could the train manage to be 40 minutes behind schedule getting to Chatham? I think that was a first. But anyway, we were 40 minutes behind, so everything was behind. And Friday, it was raining. I think it rained in a lot of places Friday. Rained most of the day. Well, until supper at least. So as I said, we arrived in Toronto 40 minutes late. And I have to tell you, this was a holiday weekend in Canada. It's called Victoria Day. A lot of people call it the May 2-4 weekend because it's the big camping weekend for a lot of people. Of course, May 2-4 was when the weekend was over, but it was established as Victoria Day, and Monday was a day off. So we have Toronto, downtown, biggest city in Canada, holiday weekend. And on top of that, it was also a weekend that the baseball team of Toronto, I'm sure those that follow baseball have heard of the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are the Toronto baseball team, and they had a home weekend. So they had games all weekend in what's called the Sky Dome. And therefore, their game would not be rained over, because the Sky Dome, I think it was one of the first of its kind. Sky Dome it's a dome, and it will close over top, close in, so that everything is inside protected and dry. So the games were not rained out because of Friday's rain. I actually have seen videos where they show the dome closing. And I've been in the Sky Dome. I went to a baseball weekend many, many years ago. So you can imagine it was busy in Toronto. So because it's raining and because it's busy and we were already tired from sitting on the train, we wanted a taxi back to the hotel. He tried to talk us out of it. He says, it's only up there a little ways. We said, we don't care. We wanted a taxi. So the taxi gets us to our hotel. It's a big, lovely hotel, and it's on the harbor front because Toronto is situated on Lake Ontario, and the hotel is called the Western Harbor Castle Hotel. It's right on the water. Right beside us was where the ferries picked up people to take them across to Toronto Island. So it was very busy. The hotel was busy. The hotel was booked. They had to use a second hotel for this. And what else? Okay. So the other thing about the hotel is one big, massive complex, as you can imagine. And then it had a causeway bridge that went across the street to another building, not near as big, of course, that had about 2 levels, and that's where the ballrooms were. And the big upper ballroom is where the Fibre Festival was being held. I did have a map showing that, but I don't have one now. I will show you a map of the floor. So in order to go to the actual Fibre Festival, we had to go on the elevator down the floor, and then you got off, went around the corner, and got on this causeway or covered bridge across the street. And then I think we went down a flight and straight into the ballroom. And I'll tell you about that in a little bit. What else can I tell you? Yeah, several floors and what have you. Now, I want to show you a couple of pictures of the hotel and what we experienced there. In the lobby, across sort of from the desk, and I'm going to show a couple of pictures. The first picture here, I better make sure I've got the right pictures. The first picture I'm going to show you is where we could sit in the lobby. From the lobby, there was this big open restaurant. They called it a restaurant or something. There was a kiosk to go in, but there was no door. It was wide open. And here's a picture of just a small portion of it. And you can see up by the windows, Bonnie is sitting there, and if it's clear enough, you can see my purple suitcase. But anyway, there's the windows, and that's probably one section of about maybe 4 sections of windows going across. There was one part that was in behind like a restaurant, but the rest was open tables, and everybody was in there sitting, enjoying knitting. Everybody was in there sitting and knitting and what have you. So after we checked in and went to our room, we came back down and we wanted to scope out the hotel. The first thing we did was walk through this open restaurant, and there were people sitting there knitting. I have to tell you, everybody we saw, they seemed to be sitting there knitting. I felt like the odd guy out, well, Bonnie and I both, because we were crocheting, and I don't think I saw one other person crocheting while we were there, although we did talk to people that did crochet. But anyway, you can see the big open windows, and there were several sections of it. Now, from the window, if you turn around and look back, you will see this other picture, and that is looking from the window back to the lobby. You can see some people sitting there knitting, some tables to the left where people were sitting, and across where all the blue stuff is sort of where the lobby was. Okay. Then another picture, and these were pictures that I took on Sunday. The first picture, I'm having trouble finding the picture, but I'm pretty sure I have a picture where you can look out and you can see, oh, there it is. When you look out, you can see the side of the building and another building. Between it is a little bit of water, and off in the distance is the island, and that's Toronto Island. And there's a nice beach there, and parks and picnic areas. There's also people living over there. And just to the right of the picture, you see a little bit of the ferry office, and I'm going to show another picture of us. We could look down from the window, and these are this picture's taken on Sunday. On Sunday when we sat there for a while, there were people there, and that's not a big crowd compared to what was there when we first sat down. But there were people there lined up all day long from the time we sat down, which was just before noon, until we left hours later. Constant stream of people catching the ferry there to get over to Toronto Island. Holiday weekend, they were heading to the beach for the day, and it was a nice, decent day on Sunday. Not really hot, a little chilly, but you can see the crowds of people. But we sat where you saw the picture of Bonnie Friday, most of the afternoon after we'd gone and scoped out where our festival was going to be. We had supper sitting there, and we sat there for quite a while on Friday. Then we went back to our room. I don't know if you're finding this interesting, but this was all part of the experience. So I want to fill you in on what happened. We went back to our room. So it was after supper, 7 or 8 o'clock, and went to get ice. Ice machine was not working. I bought juice and a muffin for breakfast. Went to put my juice in the fridge. Fridge is not working. So we called down to the front desk and told them, we don't have these things that we should have working up here. So somebody came up and brought us a bucket of ice and we also had the fridge repairman up in our room. It wasn't working. He says, I got to get you a new one. So away he went, came back a little while later, 2 guys, and they had a fridge. So at 9 o'clock at night, we have a repairman exchanging the fridge in our room. Okay. So that's fine. I'd been sitting there crocheting a little bit. We decided it was about time, get in bed and watch a little TV. And we get into bed, we pull back the cover on one side of the bed. It went like this. I kid you not, it had a ravine that looked like this on one side of the bed. And it went, I'm thinking at least 2 feet long, this gully in the middle of one side. Needless to say, we did not have the most comfortable evening. It was warm in the room. We have this huge, heavy, weighted blanket I couldn't seem to get out from underneath. It was not a good night's sleep. Anyway, first day over with. We got up nice and early in the morning, intending to it opened at 9 o'clock, and we wanted to be there ahead of time, of course, to get in. And I couldn't believe it. We went, I'm going to say it was maybe 8:30 or a little bit after 8:30. And they were lined up from the lobby up I don't know if the stairs were beginning and end, but they were all along the whole bridge. The bridge went across a multi-lane street. I'm going to say a 5 or 6 lane street. Bridge went all the way across to the hotel. They were lined up through the whole bridge and up the stairs on the other side. So people were anxious to get in. I did do some videotaping, but I will tell you when we get there more about that. Anyhow, the neat thing is, they came along and scanned our ticket ahead and gave us the appropriate bracelet before they ever opened. People were out doing that. So when they opened, we just had to have our bracelet available, and we went on in through the doors. It moved very quickly when they opened at 9 o'clock. Now, here's one other thing I want to tell you that I found amazing, and that's why I encourage you to go wherever you might find one. The first day when we passed through the restaurant, first people we talked to, I think the one lady was from New Brunswick. That is the far east coast of Canada. And the other 2 ladies were friends. The one was from Michigan. I was even surprised Michigan was there. But Michigan can cross the border very easily. I'll tell you about that later, and catch a train or drive. It's not that long of a distance, maybe, 4 hours from wherever they are in Michigan to drive to Toronto. But her friend that was with her was from Oregon. So this lady in Oregon had planned to visit her friend at this particular time in Michigan so they could come together. Then as we're standing in line to get in the morning, the lady standing directly in front of us is from California. Can you believe it? I couldn't believe people were going that far to get to a fiber festival. She was a shop owner, and she was saying how she goes to them to see different yarn dyers. They want to carry yarn in their store, so they go to these fiber festivals to see the yarn that they want to carry in their stores. And there's many a story of people from all over. Just a minute. Yeah. So I know you're saying now, hurry up, Judy. We want to see yarn. We want to see it. All right. So the first thing I want to show you is, this is the layout. I'll have it upside down. This is the layout of the festival. We were coming in these doors. There were 3 doors to come in. And then you can see the various aisles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 aisles. And then across the back. And there were some kind of in here too. And I do turn around and look at one of them when I'm videotaping. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to cut this and put in a videotape. I'm going to tell you now, I did the videotape on Sunday for a reason. When we went in on Saturday, it was crowded. There was no way I was going to get any kind of decent videotape. There were so many people, they'd be in front of the camera the whole time. So, stupid me, I start here, videotape across, I get over there, and I look, and I hadn't pushed a button. Well, I had pushed a button, but I took a picture, and I hadn't put it on video. So then I started here, and the video you're going to see in just a second starts here and walks this way across the ballroom. And then I turn around and I see the person behind me, and I kind of look at these doors. So I'm going to interrupt here now. And there are times when my voice goes in and out, but you really don't miss that much. So here is the videotape taken Sunday when it's not as crowded. Okay, we're at the far right of the ballroom. I meant to take a picture coming in. I'll do that later. Here's Alley Cat. And that's, see how long the aisles are. And we're at the far right. Now we're going to go across the front section of this hall ballroom where you can buy Knit City merchandise. Let's get out of here. And we move across, and this is Ancient Art. Some of you may be familiar with them. Have you ever seen so much yarn? Here is the zebra stripe, and there's a pair of socks done in the zebra stripe. Those of you that do socks, that's pretty. You know I won't be doing it, but look at all the pretty colors. I like this brown. Isn't that pretty, that brown? Flock Fiber Studio. And they've got a nice entrance here. And look at this beautiful shawl. Who would like to knit that for me? Yeah. I don't knit, so somebody's got to do it for me. And then another aisle. This is going all across from the entrance, looking down every aisle. Here we have, see how much yarn they have in every one of the booths? And this is Indigo Dragonfly. You've seen me, I've had yarn from them before.
This is Knit City color.
Is that a special color?
Yeah, Knit City color.
Oh. They're the ones you never know how long it is. Does it say on that one?
328
Oh,
yards.
what do you know? They've started to report. I might get some when I come back.
We have a linen silk soft.
Linen?
Yeah, and this is a mergoat, some merino cashmere nylon, and we also have 100% fingering merino.
Okay, when I finished my entry video, I'll come back.
400, yeah.
And what
This
fabric?
is the linen.
The linen. I'd like to look
Silk
at the
linen.
cashmere. I'll look at that when I come back. I do like to get the show colors.
Yeah.
There's the Toronto Knitters Guild. I don't know what they're doing. I'll have to ask them later. So,
Morning, ladies.
hello.
Sign up for our newsletter for the Toronto Knitters Guild. Sign up for
Crochet.
Celebrate all things yarny.
And there's Rose Hill. Rose Hill Yarns. And they all have quite a. This is Sunday morning that I'm taping. They all have a good selection still. And these have pouches for storing your hooks and your needles. Hey, see? They even did crochet hooks. I'm happy to see. And more yarn all down that aisle. Ooh, some of you are familiar with them. They're in Ontario. See some of their beautiful displays, special edition boxes. Yarn, yarn, and more yarn. And finally, this last booth. Yeah, there's more zebra. It must be getting popular or something. I don't know. Here's all kinds of zebra right here. I'm gonna have to use mine, I guess. Do they look like zebra yarns up there? Let's look at.
But it's knit.
It's knit, you know, that's gonna look way different than crochet. But it makes lines. Oh, I'm gonna have to take some and make a shawl. And this is the last aisle. There are 7 aisles, 5 aisles. And see, this one's much wider. So, and down at the end they have looms, so I might videotape that. So if we turn around, here's a lady behind us that makes project bags. And that's how wide this ballroom is. So I'm gonna stop it now. Later I'll go and take a picture of it. Now at the very end of the video, I'm saying, and I don't think it came across, that I was gonna go outside the door and just take a picture showing you the ballroom from outside. So I will be flashing, I'll sit in the middle here. I'll share the screen with 1 or 2 pictures showing the ballroom from outside. I didn't take near as many pictures and videos as I would have liked to. You get busy, you don't think about it. There's so many people, it's not easy to videotape things. I did take pictures, not as many as I would have liked of that either. I didn't take pictures of us. That's something I regret. I didn't get a picture of the people I met, but I'll mention that later. So here we are. We've entered. It's just a minute or 2 after 9 o'clock. And I had decided before I ever got there that I was heading down to Green Button Jar right away. And I had a reason for that. Green Button Jar had advertised bags, and this is the bag. I wanted to get her bag, and she had limited supply. So here is the canvas. See, this is a good size canvas bag. I have to think it's at least 18 inches, 20 inches across, and it's canvas with good solid straps. Ball of yarn on, of course, got knitting needles, and then it does say green button jar. Now, I wanted to get the bag because it would be a good souvenir. It would also be a good sturdy bag for me to put my things in that day. And I had my camera, and I had a little small clipboard with me to make a few notes. And I had lots of business cards with me that I gave out to people, people that I talked to, and some of the vendors. I don't know how many of you are watching this video, but hello to all of you that are, and thank you so much for following my video. So we headed straight to Green Button Jar. Now, I did make one mistake. I got this bag, but I had also seen that Green Button Jar was clearing out some of her older skeins, one-ofs, oopsies, whatever. And she had a sale bin where each skein was $15. And in the Instagram video, I saw a skein that was my color. And I just thought, I got to get there. Well, I didn't even think about it when I got there after I got the canvas bag, and I had a conversation with her because she is in Windsor. Windsor's the border city to Detroit, Michigan, and Windsor is also only an hour from me. It's where my family actually, what's left of it, lives in that area. My sister and brother both went to the university in Windsor. So I wanted to talk to her and meet her. I think I have ordered from her in the past. The item I wore last week was her yarn, and I was wearing it on Saturday. But in talking to her, of course, my eyes are roaming around, and I right away latched on a sparkle, and she didn't have a lot of it. And interestingly enough, it was in a color that I remember when I was at home thinking about, okay, plan out a little bit what it is you want to get while you're there. And as my eyes moved around, you know, the storage unit over there and a few other things, I thought, you know, you want to get solids to go with all this variegated stuff. And one of the colors I thought I would like to get is pink, because I had a number of things that had pink in it. Well, if the first thing my eyes don't light on is this. See, now you're not going to see everything in blue and purple today. I did get some variety, but this was the first thing I latched on, and actually I really, really like it. It may or may not match something I have. It's got some red, some very, very vibrant pink, some other tones of pink, orangey peachies. And so I got this skein of yarn from the Green Button Jar. Very, very local to me. And this is 84% merino, 16% stellina, and it has 425 yards in it. Color is called flamingo. Of course, it's fingering. I bought one that isn't fingering. All the rest are fingering if I don't. Oh, no. Those two aren't fingering either. Okay, so that was my very first purchase of the day. Well, then I can't really remember the order that I did everything. I did write something down here. Oh, yes. I'm pretty sure that when I turned around and looked across the aisle or right near where I was, there, I hope I have a picture. I'm pretty sure I have a picture. I can't see, it's too small. Oh yes, there it is. I had to stop here. This is for you, Diane. You were the ones that more or less introduced me to this company. They are in Toronto, and they are called Feisty. Here's the picture of their booth. Again, hard to see because there's so many people around, but you get the sign. There's Feisty Fibers that Diane at My Pink Bathtub Knits talked about, I think just at the 1st of May, because May is the month that she featured dyers from Ontario. So right away, I kind of looked and I saw this yarn. I want to compare it to a yarn I have, but I can't seem to see it. Oh, there it is. This yarn, I could tell, had linen in it. Linen does not dye. Linen stays white. So you see the white in the yarn. And this is a merino linen. It is 90% merino, 10 linen, 400 yards, fingering, of course. This is called Chill. And I wanted to get this color because I thought I'm pretty sure I have a lot of things at home that have an aqua, teal, turquoise. Everybody would call that something different. This is a little more to the blue side, and it is showing up fairly good on the camera. Now, I wanted to compare it to the linen I got, just a month or so ago. I had some yarn sent to me from Naughty Habits in South Africa, and this is the linen she sent me, and I think she dyed it for my color, and it is, I don't see the percentages here. Oh, 90% merino, 10% linen. You would think there might be silk in this. I was told, though, that the sheep in South Africa are different. They produce a different quality of yarn than other merino, even though it's merino. And I have to tell you, this has, it's not rough, but it is a little bit on the wool side to feel, whereas this one, they're both the same percentage, merino and linen. This one is more silky feeling, but right off the bat, I think it's because this has a twisted ply. Well, this is twisted too, but it has a little more of a roving feel. This is silky feeling, what I got from South Africa. So if you ever want to take a chance of buying from South Africa, it would be worth it. This is very, 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 very silky. So anyway, I said, this is a good color to get. And I went over and I was looking at it, and they had a whole rack with solids. And I'm looking at everything they have. Sorry, my rack got kind of moved, and I want to keep my notes close by. Anyway, I'm looking at the different colors and thinking, I should get a few more solids, but I don't know what to get. And then I turned to the side, and they had a sample there. I think it was a sweater, if I recall. They have lots of samples around to see and feel how the yarn is. I really enjoyed that aspect of the show. Of course, almost all samples were knitted, and things look different knitting and crocheting. But I saw this sweater I really liked, and I saw the colors down below, and I said I would really like those two colors. Well, it was a 4-pack for the sweater, and I didn't want the 4-pack, but they had them separate, and somebody helped me, and these are the other two colors that I got. Same 90-10 merino linen. This one was called Chill. This one is called Avalon, and this one is called Don't Call Me Babe. Now, these two will be fine on their own, or I can put this one with it. If I want, I can do 3 together in something. I love them all together. But if I find a variegated that I really need something to go with it, I could put this with something else and just do these two. So the verdict is out yet. I never buy with a specific thing in mind, but these are from Feisty Fibers. Gorgeous, aren't they? Very nice yarn, very nice colors, and they are in Toronto. So if I like working with this, they had lots of other solid colors as well. I could get more. So that was the next purchase I made. I don't know. I don't have them all in order. Yeah. Okay. Then I think the next major purchase I made was from Fireweed. Now, you've heard me mention Fireweed a few times. I have a picture from Fireweed and what I liked there. Oh, first of all, the yarn I'm using right now from Fireweed, I thought it was just a one-off kind of thing, and she didn't have a name for it. It was just numbered 29, which made me think it wasn't a repeatable. And I said to her, I'm working with some yarn of yours right now. In fact, I did one of my shawls using a tweed from fireweed. The purple tweed scarf I made was from fireweed, and the yarn I'm using now, which I showed you, I'm pretty sure I showed it to you last week. It's I wouldn't say variegated, but it's silver with lots of different colored splotches on it, which I thought would be done, and it's not done. I'll show it next week. It was number 29, and I mentioned this to her. I said it didn't have a name. I don't know if you'll remember, you numbered it 29. And right away, her husband, who was standing there, said, oh, that's because every year she does one special color for her to celebrate her birthday, and she calls it by her age. So she was 29 when she dyed up that particular yarn. He said, here's this year's, and he brings it out. It's number 32, and he showed it to me. But the reason I was there, and I'm going to put a picture up here showing, some dyers would make a special yarn specifically for the show. The color is a show special. Now, my understanding is it's only available at the show. I don't think they redo it, but at the same time, they're going to have leftover from the show, so they're going to be selling what's left. I don't know if they dye more. I didn't think they did. I think they only dyed for the show. Of course, they'll sell what's left over, but that's the only time you can really get it. And I really wanted to get a couple of those. Not everybody does it. I think I saw, well, I didn't talk to every booth, but I think I saw 3 or 4. I got 2. So I got this one, which is fireweed, and it is called Queen Street West. Well, I guess because, no, we weren't on Queen Street. Oh, yes, I think we were on Queen Street. But anyway, this, you can see the colors, a lot of colors in it. A lot of colors to represent all the colors at the show, but guess what? No yellow, so I'm safe. And it is 50% merino and 50% silk. And it feels lovely. Actually, you know what it feels like? It feels like my alpaca silk DK. Feels lovely because all of these yarns in this cubby back here, oh, it's too low, you can't see it. These are 50% merino, 50% silk. And you can see the difference. This is much more shine to it. And this is a roving. It does change thickness, and it feels a little silkier than this. But this is a more, it's got a twist, but it feels heavenly. I love this, and I've decided that I'm just going to stick to one of my one skein patterns, probably from CJ Brady, and make myself something out of this yarn because it's predominantly purples and blues down here. It has a little bit of pink, it's kind of orangey red there. And of course it has sort of a green and teal up here, but you can see it's a lot purple and blue. And it feels heavenly, and this is for me. So that was fireweed. Then where did we head next? I'm thinking that we went next to Artfill. I didn't know them from anybody else, so I can't say a lot. But when I walked, they're from Montreal. A lot of the vendors were from Montreal. And when we walked in and we were talking to them and so on, I happened to spy on one wall because I didn't get to feel every, I'm going to show you at some point some pictures of 1 or 2 stalls or booths, and you can see it's a lot of yarn, and you could feel it all and decide which you like, or feel it and say, I'll get some reorder later, and you aren't going to remember. I know now I saw stuff I wanted to get, and I'm not going to remember who had what. I know there was one I took a picture of. I'm going to put the picture in here. And I looked at their yarn, didn't get up close, but it looked very silky. But it also looked like it had kind of a bumpy texture. Not bumpy, but wavy. Kind of reminded me of one of EFA's yarns. The name escapes me now. And a little bit like boucle, but not quite that bumpy. It looked very nice, but we were heading somewhere, and I'm thinking, I don't need any right now. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't later. I meant to get back there, and I never did. We got so busy. But anyway, so I was in Artville, and guess what called me? You know why. First of all, it's a perfect September color, is it not? And even the sparkle is blue. I went and picked that up and said, this has to go home with me. It is called Glitter. It's 75% Merino Rambouillet and 25% Stellina. It has, which I didn't notice, might have made a difference, 283 meters, which is 310 yards, because it is a sport weight. So it's a teeny bit thicker. And this is called Midnight Kiss. Yes, it looks like it. But I knew I didn't want just this. I mean, it'd be sort of like the same idea as this, right? I did want to put it with something. So I did look to see, and I found a color. They had a lot of beautiful colors. I found a color I wanted to put with it. And by doubling this up, 310, I'll have 620. So I found this color, and I absolutely love this color as well. Now, the Stellina in this is a little more silvery. I suspect it took the blue dye, but it didn't take this cherry colored dye. This is called Sangria. I love these two colors together, and I've seen a number of cowls, shawls, asymmetrical triangles that kind of start with one color and they have stripes of the other, thin ones, and eventually the stripes get bigger and these would get smaller and it would end in the other color. I've seen some that switch at the middle, I know I can make something with these two skeins together. I really want to put them together. And Artville, as I said, is in Montreal. So had to get that, you understand. And the other place, I think I did this. I'm going to have to get moving. I see the time is flying here. The next place I think I went to that morning was Les Garçons. I had in my mind, I wanted to go to Les Garçons because, first of all, they're in Montreal also. And they have a store in Montreal. And they are doing a YouTube channel. I don't know how often they come on. I've only seen them 2 or 3 times since Christmas. And they're knitters. Most of them are knitters. And but they show some beautiful stuff and they show their yarns. One of the pair of them is more into designing, and the other one seems to be the dyer of the pair of them. And they were talking a lot about some of their different yarns, and one of them was fluff. And I've also watched Needles at the Ready. I don't know if any of you watched them, and they talked about the fluff. I think maybe somebody else has too. But I thought, you know what? I want to get some of this fluff. I want to know what it's like. I want to try it. So first of all, interesting little aside, the night before Friday, when we were busy scoping out, we actually went to the ballroom and stood in the doorway and watched the various vendors putting up their displays, getting ready for the show. And already we realized that it was amazing, overwhelming. You saw how long those aisles are, a lot of vendors. 108 vendors. That's a lot of people. And when we left, watching at the doorway, and we turned to look around, we're going around one corner, and this fella passes us, and I didn't look. And then I did a second look, and I thought, I know him. And then I said, Les Garçons, because I couldn't remember their names. It actually was Vincent. Their names are Max and Vincent. He turns around and he looks at me. I said, you're from Les Garçons, aren't you? He said, yes. I said, well, I watch your videos, and I've come specially to try to see about your fluff. So, you know, he said, that's nice, and we'll see you tomorrow. And I thought it was kind of cool that we ran into him and I recognized him. And so we went to Les Garçons the next day, and he remembered. I said, we saw you in the hall. He said, yeah, I remember you. Anyway, I have to say a big thank you to Max. I'm a crocheter, they're knitters, but he spent time with me showing me what this fluff, it was knitted, but he said, you'll get something similar to this if you use to, he didn't show me an elaborate sweater or anything like that. He showed me a scarf very similar to this that was narrow, got wide, and went narrow, and it had stripes, and the different colors changed. So in the end, I got some fluff. Now, this is different. And these are the two colors that I got. There's their logo. See, Les Garçons right there. I'm not sure what the other is. And it says, I can't read it, it's sparkly. Something Kingdom. Montreal, I can read that. Bath, United Kingdom. Oh, some connection to the UK. I'm not sure what that is. But anyway, this is the fluff. It's sport weight. And there are 200 meters or 219 yards. And it is, listen to this, it's 55% baby alpaca. You would maybe kind of think that from all the fluff. It is 18% fine merino wool. It is 17% mulberry silk. And now listen, it is 10% yak and 100% dreamy. This color is called cinema, and this color is called cold rain. But I thought these would be really good together because I wanted to get the red. It was a really nice, vibrant, pretty red, a cherry red, not an orange red. I don't like orange reds. And I thought, well, what goes with it? Black would, but I didn't see black in the fluff. But gray is a very good neutral. And I am going to make something fairly similar to this. I'm going to check how many yards this, although this is fingering and this is sport. Let me show you a strand of it. There's a strand. The actual strands aren't all that thick, but all that fluff makes it thicker. So I am going to make some kind of scarf out of the two of these. It is really, really very, very nice. And I got that at Les Garçons. So I think, because I don't think this happened in the morning, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to break from buying yarn and tell you about our noon hour, because I had made arrangements before I went to meet up with a couple of people. Now, the first person that I knew that would come to meet us was Judy. She lives in Toronto. And Judy, for those of you who have followed me for a while, you know I did a craft show in Sarnia, which is an hour from me, last fall. And Judy came from Toronto to see me at the craft show. I think it was the Judy connection. She was pretty happy about another Judy. There are 4 of us now. Another one is near Toronto in Ontario. The other's in, I think, Missouri or someplace in the southern U.S. But anyhow, she came. She knew she'd be coming, but wasn't sure at what point she would make it because of family issues going on. But I also made contact, or she contacted me, was Kathy. Some of you may know Kathy, who has a YouTube channel called Yarn with Heart. And she said that her and her husband were going to come, and they didn't want to come in the evening supper. She said they were coming in the morning. I said, that's fine. Maybe we could meet at lunch and do lunch together. She said, that's great. So we exchanged numbers, and I was to contact her around and figure out where we were. Well, they set up what was called a quiet room that was supposed to be beside the ballroom. Actually, it was down one flight from the ballroom. So I was down in the quiet room, and I was making notes of what I had done and bought that morning. And while I was there, I thought, well, I'll just call to Kathy. Actually, it was her husband who had the phone, but I messaged them and asked them, where are you? And they said, well, we're at the back looking at the looms, but we can be wherever you are. I said, well, don't rush, but I'm downstairs in the quiet room. You have to go downstairs to get to it. So I sat there and worked, and Bonnie, who'd been out doing something, I don't know, came back, and we're sitting there. And then Kathy joined us. Well, of course, get up, big hugs. Hello, how you doing? Well, we were told that it was a quiet room. So Kathy says to me, I don't want to sit here and whisper the whole time. Let's go out in the lobby and find a chair or a bench or something. So we went out, and in the hallway, we found some chairs and a bench to sit on and visited. And I'd say we visited for half an hour at least before I checked for Judy. And Judy was there. She'd text and I'd missed it. So I told her where we were, and I went and met her at the stairs, and Judy came down and joined us. So there's all of us. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. We're visiting and catching up and showing our yarn. And then if you go out the door across sort of an alley, there was a Timmy's. So some of us went over and got Timmy's for lunch and came back, and we sat and visited and showed our yarn. And I have to take Kathy to task for this. But I come to find out that Kathy and her husband are both from the countryside outside of Chatham. There are towns like Blenheim and Ridgetown and Tilbury and Wallaceburg all around Chatham, all part of Kent County. And Kathy went to Blenheim to school, I'm guessing. She lived in the country closer to Blenheim, and her husband lived closer to Ridgetown, and he went to school, I guess, in Ridgetown. And when they first got married, they lived in Chatham. They told me the street, I knew where it was. It's not all that far from where I am now. All this time, Kathy is a local and never told me. Naughty, naughty, Kathy. But anyway, what a small world, right? So we had a great time visiting. In fact, her husband was cousins to 2 girls I went to school with. They lived a couple blocks from me when I was growing up. What a small world. So that was really exciting to find that out and catch up and visit and talk about our yarn and some things we'd seen. We exchanged some information and videos, and I'm sure we must have visited for an hour and a half or more, and then we all decided we wanted to get back to the yarn festival and see what was there, and then they each went on their way. Now Kathy and her husband went to wherever they went. Judy sort of went around with Bonnie and I for the afternoon. So I want to tell you about this is getting too long. I'm just going to tell you about one more yarn I got that day. I think I'll save one of them for tomorrow because there isn't as much tomorrow. So I also had wanted to visit Frosted Stitch. Frosted Stitch is in Ontario. They are up in Sudbury, and I had been watching them on Instagram for a while, And this is the one thing I really appreciate about Frosted Stitch. I don't know how many of you check these things out or what, but some indie dyers, of course, they have their websites where you can go and purchase their yarn. Some are on Etsy, and that's set up a little different, but some of them that have their own websites might show you a sample of what the yarn looks worked up. Now, Arcane Fibre, for example, shows a knitted sample. I've asked about crochet. I won't talk about that today. A number of them will show you a knitted sample and a crocheted sample. That's my biggest beef in the indie dyer world. They show you things made up, samples they call them, knitted. Lots and lots of knitted things, but you don't get too much crochet. A few will show a crochet sample. Now, I realized this was called Knit City, Toronto, and I was going to see a lot of knit. But when these dyers go home, they're their own independent little store, and they're selling yarn to all of us. And I had a conversation with a few of them, telling them that my one pet peeve is they don't promote their yarn. Some of them just promote the yarn, but they show and push knitted. They have knitted patterns. They have they have knit-alongs. They do everything to do with knit, and not as much crochet. And crocheters use a whole lot more yarn than knitters. You know, it doesn't go as far. And a few of them really agreed with me. A few of them did have knit samples. And I think in tomorrow's video, not tomorrow's, that's how tired I have brain fog here. In next week's video, I will definitely show you a few more pictures. I'll show one more picture before I'm done here today. And I did see some crochet samples, and I will show you a couple pictures of that. So anyway, I am going to tell you, Frosted Stitch not only does knitted samples, she does crochet samples. And when I was watching a live of hers on Instagram, she also had Tunisian stitch samples. Now, she didn't have them with her at the show, and she doesn't have them in everything. She said she's starting to get them. So I think it's a process. I think over time she will have more Tunisian stitch samples on her page. One of the ladies I spoke to said, oh, my daughter's the crocheter, so we're working on getting crochet samples. So I appreciated that in the conversations I had with some of the people. So anyway, I went to Frosted Stitch. I didn't look at her whole booth. She has what she calls the grunge line, and it was over on one side. But what I ended up getting was this, and I think I have to believe this also was a special dye for the show, because the color is called Harborfront. And our hotel, the festival was at Weston Harbor Castle Hotel. We were on the harbor front, and the picture shows the harbor front. So I have to think this was a special dye color for the show, because it's called Harbor Front. Now, it's her snowflake sock, so it's 75% merino, 25% nylon. The 100 grams gives me 463 yards. 4 ply, and of course, it's fingering weight. Now, you're going to be surprised at this, but this is the yarn. This is, of course, not what you consider the thing I would gravitate to. And probably I wouldn't have, except that, and I didn't take a picture, they had something worked up in this color. And even though it's not a color I would see on the shelf and go say, oh, I really like that, I want that. When I saw the sample, I really, really liked it. It looks very nice worked up. And you can see quite a few colors in here. It definitely has a gray, taupey gray. And up here, some colors I don't care, that green, but the teal is nice. But in here, you see there's a nicer blue down here. But in here you see some darker like cranberry. I think there's a little bit of brown and greens. And my thinking was, if I think or find a one skein thing, of course it was knitted, and knitted would look lovely and crochet would look different. But my thinking was that maybe I would find something on the burgundy or cherry color. Is there more? Oh, over here it's red, orangey red. I wanted to find another color that might look really nice next to this, and do two skeins together. It might even require me to find three, something in the dark teal here and something in this burgundy, and put them with this, and stripe a shawl. I don't know. But when I saw it worked up, I did like the overall look with all these speckles. So I got it. It's the only thing that when you look at it does not look like a Judy yarn at all, but it was lovely worked up. So I got it. So I know I've really run the gamut of time here, and I had, looks to me like I had two more, oh no, maybe just one more purchase. I know that was the next day, and I think that was the next day. But this was today. I'm going to, because the time is running short here, and I'll make another full episode with all that happened after we left the show Saturday. I need to finish Saturday evening a little bit, and Sunday. I'll do that all next week. And by the way, Les Garçons also gave us this card, and it's in how to get to them by car, metro, bus, and train if you want to go see Les Garçons, if you're going to be in the Montreal area. And they are, of course, online, Les Garçons. So it was a very exhausting day. I want to make one more comment. I have to appreciate the people in the booths, because when I went to Fireweed, for example, that is one of the companies that I was getting a monthly subscription. And I was telling her about the colors and wondering what was coming next and when was it coming out. She says, well, you would have April and May by now. And I said, well, I've only got 3, January, February, March. Told her the colors, yeah. Well, I said, oh, well, maybe you're one of the subscriptions I've canceled. She was not upset. She says, well, if you did, that, you have to do what works for you. She wasn't upset by it at all. And as we were going around the booths later in the afternoon, the last booth I think we did was New Mana, which I'm going to talk about next week. I remember, I think Bonnie was talking to somebody or looking at somebody. I happened to be across the aisle at this booth. I had no intention of walking into the booth. I was standing there. The lady was not busy. She's looking at me thinking I'm going to ask something or look around. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm on overload. I said, I've seen so much yarn and so much color, and I love color, but I am totally on overload. I couldn't buy or look at another thing because I would not make a wise decision. And I was telling her this, I am on overload. I can't handle another thing, and I'm tired as well. She says, yep, that's perfectly understandable. She was not pushy. She was not trying to show me something to entice me to come into her booth. She was just listening and commiserating and understanding, and that was fine with her, And I thought, well, how very nice You know, we talked to many people, and I have a few stories to tell you about a couple of the vendors and people we heard about that still blows my mind away. It blew my mind away. The people came from New Brunswick, although that's in Canada, but also came from Oregon and California. And oh yeah, we were also at a table with some people from Maryland, two ladies from Maryland. Like, really, these people travel to these shows. It's amazing. So it was a super wonderful experience and exciting, tiring. And I have more to tell you because I still have several more skeins of yarn to show you. Please don't count. Please don't judge. I was there to enjoy myself. And I will be telling you more about them next week. I will have some finished objects next week. And then I will finish my story of our exciting weekend. So I hope you'll come back next week and hear more. But until then, happy stitching, happy hooking,